Okay, media, I think you had enough time. Thank you very much. Let's take our seats, all of us, please take our seats so that we can start with our program. Let me once again greet all of you and introduce myself. Libito Laga Kimoragani Musubye. I'm the member of the Executive Council, Mohauteng, responsible for arts, culture, sports, and recreation, and I will be directing the program for you this morning. Excuse me. So I just want to acknowledge our interpreters, sign language interpreters, and then we'll take the two national anthems. We have Ms. Kadi and Mr. Sikumba. So I'm going to ask all of us to stand up, and the gentlemen to please take off your caps, your hoods, and we will remain standing. All of us, please, can we stand up out of respect for our national anthems? We are going to take both national anthems, the South African national anthem and the AU anthem. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Yes, all of us. You may proceed. our children. Thank you very much.
Departments of this August gathering to celebrate Africa Day.
And
Ala Selaelo Training Arts Center Group. Ala. Mr. President and Minister, the Premier and our honored guests, I think it's only proper that we share with you the following, the stakeholders that we work with as a department. The Gauteng provincial government departments, because we have sister departments that are working with us. The Mogale City, South African National Defence Force, the African Diaspora Forum, the Constitutional Hill, the Human Rights Commission, the Independent Electoral Commission, Africa Awake, and the national departments. Now, President, all of these groups that are performing for us here are from Gauteng, and they are supported by the Department of Arts, Culture and Recreation. Together with the Department of National Minister, we want to thank you so much through a grant that he provides the department with annually. So that grant is making it possible for us to add to the programs that we have as a department. That is appreciated. So, Mr. President, I want to plead with you that when you do your speech, you acknowledge also the support that we are getting from the minister, for him to continue supporting us, because it is helpful. I'm now going to ask that we allow the Premier of Gauteng, Mr. Panyaza Hendrik Lusufi, to give us his remarks. Can we welcome him with a round of applause, please?
Thank you so much, Program Director May Winfred Morakani Musupse. Oi, oi, Africa, oi, oi. Oi, oi, Africa, oi, oi. Long live Africa, long live. Long live Africa, long live. My boo, yeah. My boo, yeah. Our President Cyril Ramaphosa, our ministers Zizigotwa, ambassadors and high commissioners present, the executive mayor of Mogale, Councillor Alderman Tupani, the acting director general of Sports, Arts, Culture, Dr. Cynthia Kumalo, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. This day is a special day. This day, it's a very important day. Africa Day, it's no ordinary day. It's a day that makes us to remind each other where we come from, where we are, and where we want to go. This day is laden with both meaning and symbolism, which relate to the inspiring past of our continent. It was on this day that our forebears embraced a vision which was to transcend time, barriers and sustain our continent over the most testing moments of our history. As we gather today, we do so to renew our pledge to unite our people in a meaningful way. Our unity is not just abstract. It's a need that put us into practice in more tangible ways. Our unity is not just a conscious effort to rebuild our African identity, but it's a process that embraces everyone, a process that wants to achieve one thing and one thing only, to modernize our continent. as we define Africa's place in the modern world, we must do so knowing very well that we are pulling everyone and we are committed to move with everyone so that no one is left behind. When our ancestors formed the Organization of African Unity back on this day, 1963, they performed their duties of their generation. It is this generation that we are now leading and we are now part of that must find its mission and define that particular task. And we are of the strong view that particular task is to modernize our continent. That particular task is to modernize and prepare Africa so that it can stand on its own and benefit out of its own wealth. Today, the modern African generation has come to terms with the challenges of its day. Today, as Africans, we are proud to declare we are prepared and ready to define our own future on our own terms. Let us continue to build our continent. Let us banish all the ills which blight our continent and undermine our future. Let no external negative force divide our people. Let us refocus, correct our mistakes, and mobilize behind the vision of a united and prosperous Africa. Africa my beginning, Africa my ending. Aluta!
Thank you very much, Premier, and thank you for... Can we give him another round of applause, please? Thank you very much. I am now going to ask that the poet cause to give us a message of support. Can we give them a round of applause, please?
Thank you, Program Director. I cannot really express myself to come after this amazing cultural performance. Honorable Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa, Honorable Kodwa, Minister of Arts, Sport and Culture, Mr. Lessufi, Premier of Gauteng, Executive Mayor of Mokale, Ambassadors, High Commissioners, present, distinguished guests. Good morning. I think it is already, yeah. Good morning, everyone. Permit me to begin by extending a warm welcome to everyone present, and also allow me to take the opportunity to thank the event's organizers and each of you for taking part in today's celebration of Africa Day. Happy Africa Day. Africa Day, which is being held under the theme of accelerating intra-Africa trade, creating conducive conditions for Africa's development. I am honored and privileged to be here at this moment with fellow Africans and African lovers, because we are all descendants of the soil, blood, sweat, and tears of Africa, the mother continent we all share. Spiritually, we will never leave Africa in terms of our very being, exact circumstances and attitude, and this is the case because we are all descendants of Africa. Africa Day is observed in the month of May 25th, only and only one day after the hard-won Eritrean national independence anniversary, which has colorfully celebrated yesterday inside and outside the country. Let me take this opportunity to thank all who conveyed the congratulatory messages to the people and the government of Eritrea. And I thank you. Africa Day is observed as a result of the formation of the Organization of African Unity. The OAU in 1963, it was against the backdrop of this momentous occasion that the birth of the determined agenda of unity and self-reliance was illustrated, and a dream of an African post-independence was charted. After Africa Day provides us with a day of reflection on Africa's achievements and challenges in the recent past, a celebration of its population and culture, as well as the conundrum which confronted us in various directions. The generations of Africa are duly bound to protect the legacy of the legacy that there needs to be a consolidation and the rejuvenation of the African identity to rescue African norms, culture, and ideals. It is a call to place Africa as an equal in the global scheme of society by crafting a plan based on industrialization, agricultural development, investment in health, education, and road infrastructure. These phenomena I believe, lead us to self-reliance that demolishes the economic system where Africa is a site of extraction of its natural wealth. Today, Africa all over the world, both on the continent and in the diaspora, are coming together to celebrate Africa Day, the most joyous day on the African calendar. I would want to use this occasion both on behalf of the diplomatic corps and in my capacity as the Eritrean ambassador to South Africa to extend our warmest regards and best wishes to all people living in Africa. In addition, we join forces with other people of African descent to collaborate on projects that will aid in expanding Africa's economy and socio-economic standing of Africa worldwide. Today, we have the responsibility of recommitting ourselves to both Agenda 2063 and the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. We are all aware of the Agenda 2063, which is a historic, comprehensive, and long-term plan for our economic and social development. The goal of this plan is to achieve an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa that is driven by its own citizens. We can turn Africa into an economic powerhouse if we all put in the comparable efforts, collaborate with other stakeholders, and forge productive collaborations with the various African Union agencies. Every resident of Africa should make it their personal mission to work towards the realization of all the sustainable development goals on African continent. In addition, we are able to make certain that the obligations associated with Agenda 2063 and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are fulfilled to the fullest extent possible for all of its citizens. On this Africa Day, let us rededicate ourselves to strengthening partnerships in pursuit of peace and sustainable progress for all of Africa. Happy Africa Day. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dean Sali Omar Abdu. The cultural group Bob 90, the Bino Band, you are asked to come backstage so that you can prepare for your performance. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now an honored guest. We are now nearing the moment that we're all waiting for. So, to bring you even closer to that moment, allow me then to ask Minister Godwa to come and introduce the President of South Africa to us. Minister?
Thank you very much. Oye, Africa, oye! Oye, Africa, oye! Your Excellency, Mr. President, the President of the Republic of South Africa, the Premier of our beautiful province, Panyaza Lesufi, the Mayor of this beautiful city of Mogale, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed High Commissioners and Ambassadors, I want to thank you very much for honoring our invite and coming in such huge numbers. Mr. President, almost 40 accredited missions are present here today. Mr. President, on this auspicious occasion, as we gather to celebrate Africa Day, we embark on a journey to honor the rich tapestry of our continent's history, resilience, and unwavering spirit. Today, we come together to commemorate the resistance of the African continent against the shackles of colonialism. It is a resistance that runs deep in our collective consciousness, forged in the crucible of struggle and sacrifice. From the valiant warriors who resisted European invasions to the freedom fighters who stood against apartheid, Africa has been the battle for justice and liberation. Africa, the cradle of humanity, has endured centuries of exploitation, oppression, and subjugation. But through it all, Mr. President, our people have risen time and time again, displaying incredible strength, courage, and unity. Today, we reflect the sacrifices of our forebears and pay homage to their indomitable spirit that paved way for the freedom we enjoy today. Program Director, Premier, your Honorable President and guest, 2023 is a very crucial year in the African calendar as it marks 60th anniversary of the OAU. OAU today, the African Union. This year offers us the unique opportunity to reflect on the journey we've traveled together as an African continent. The year 2023 is also a special year, Mr. President, because it marks 35 years of the Battle of Kitokina Valley, the battle that marked the beginning of a journey towards SADC liberation and South Africa's liberation in particular, when the liberation forces of MPLA and SWAPO led by Cuba defeated apartheid regime on the 23rd March 1988. Hola Cuba, hola! We celebrate Africa not just as a geographical entity, but as a vibrant mosaic of cultures, languages, traditions, and beliefs. Our diversity is our strength. Our diversity is who we are. Our diversity makes us unique. Our diversity is Africa. And it is through embracing our differences that we foster a truly unique and powerful African identity. From the rhythmic beats of Western African drums to the haunting melodies of Sahara, from the vibrant colors of East African textiles to the intricate beadwork of the Southern tribes. Our arts and culture have woven together the very fabric of our shared heritage. Today, Mr. President, as we gathered here on Africa Day, 25th May 2023, history is being made. The Netball World Cup trophy lands in South Africa. It is by no coincidence. For the first time, this prestigious Netball World Cup trophy will touch African soil, and this will happen on this important in the host on behalf of the continent. The African Union, Mr. President, has always recognized the role of sport, arts and culture that can play as catalyst for socio-economic development integration of the African continent. Let us therefore embrace this Netball World Cup and make it an African Netball World Cup. In the words of Frantz Fanon, Mr. President, I quote, "Each generation must discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray it," close quote. Let us be the generation that fulfills our mission, that preserves our freedom, and that paves the way for future generations to flourish. Mr. President, it is possible that through sport, through arts and culture, we can build a sustainable peace in South Sudan. Mr. President, it is possible that you can build a sustainable peace in between
More than 100 years ago, Pixley Kaisa Kaseme gave a lecture at Columbia University in New York, which he titled The Regeneration of Africa. In his words, the ancestral greatness, the unimpaired genius, and the recuperative power of the race, its irrepressibility, which assures its permanence, constitute the African's great source of inspiration, close quotes. This recuperative power of Africa is one of the reasons we observe Africa Day. We observe Africa Day because we are reminding ourselves of the resilience we possess as Africans. Resilience that has taken us from where we have come, and a resilience that is taking us to our future. We observe Africa Day to celebrate our unity as Africans and to remind ourselves of the responsibility we all share to bring about an Africa that is peaceful, an Africa that is prosperous, and importantly, an Africa that is united. We know that when we are united, we are formidable. We can overcome even the greatest of difficulties. It was just 3 short years ago that the first case of COVID-19 was confirmed in Africa. South Africa had just assumed the chair of the African Union in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. The pandemic plunged the world into turmoil. There were well-founded fears that African countries with low levels of development would be devastated as a result of this pandemic spreading across the continent. The pandemic was a great trauma for Africa. Many lives were lost. In our own country here in South Africa, we continue to mourn the lives of more than 100,000 people. Businesses were forced to close and people lost their jobs. But this worst health emergency in living memory did not destroy Africa, because Africans came together and acted as one. The African Union developed a continental response and implemented this response with urgency across all the regions of our continent. We set up a groundbreaking platform to procure medical supplies for African countries and appointed envoys to mobilize resources to help African countries to fight the pandemic. We even assisted countries in the Caribbean, which is the 6th region of our continent. When vaccines became available, we set up a mechanism to acquire them for African countries in need. Our collective response to COVID-19 pandemic gave new momentum to the cause of African integration. We learned as Africans that we have the means, the capacity, and the political will to develop and implement solutions to Africa's challenges. We came together as one and confronted a common enemy, utilizing the skills, the expertise, the knowledge, that resides in our continent. We were reminded that excellent world-class expertise exists right here on our continent. It was eminent African scientists, supported by the World Health Organization, that guided and advised countries around the world on their responses and on evidence-based policymaking. It was African researchers here in our country who detected new variants of the coronavirus and alerted the world. We asserted our right to equip ourselves with the tools to prepare for future health emergencies and pushed for the transfer of technology and skills. The greatest lesson we learned as Africa from the pandemic is to value and to nurture our own capabilities. As Pixley Kaisama Seme said, the African is not a proletarian in the world of science and art. We refuse, he continued to say, to camp forever on the borders of the industrialized world. We learned the importance of collaboration between African countries, and that if we work together, we can rebuild our economies, we can restore hope to our people, and chart a new future for our beloved continent, Africa. This year marks 60 years since the Organization of African Unity was founded on the 25th of May in 1963. The words of the founding charter of the OAU, which is the predecessor of the African Union, are as relevant today as they were back then. The charter called for the harnessing of the natural and human resources of our continent for the building of understanding and the solidarity between African countries to build a larger unity transcending ethnic and national differences. It called on African countries to safeguard and consolidate their hard-won independence, the respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, and for resistance against neocolonialism in all its forms. Our continent has many challenges. In many parts of the continent, battles for control of Africa's natural resources are fueling conflict, instability, violence, and terrorism. Some multinational companies are engaged in unscrupulous conduct that is harming human health and polluting the natural environment. In some parts of our continent, instead of a respect for diversity, divisions are being sown between communities. There are places where people are being persecuted on the grounds of gender, ethnicity, language, religion. We are now also witnessing Africa being dragged into conflicts far beyond our own borders. Some countries, including our own, are being threatened with penalties for pursuing an independent foreign policy and for adopting a position of non-alignment. In countries, we have painful memories of a time when proxy war waged on the soils of Africa. by foreign superpowers. We have not forgotten the terrible, brutal legacy of first having our own continent carved up and colonized by European countries, only to find ourselves once more being pawns on a chessboard during the Cold War. We are not going back to that history. We refuse to go back to that period in history as Africans. And this, I will say it once again today, South Africa has not been and will not be drawn into a contest between global powers. We will maintain our position on the peaceful resolution of conflict wherever those conflicts occur. Guided by the lessons of our history, we will continue to resist calls to abandon our independent and non-aligned foreign policy. As Africa, our focus remains on pursuing the idea
All right, we apologize about that technical issue. We'll see if we can get that line back up. The President is speaking live at the Cradle of Humankind, starting with how apt that is since it is Africa Day. So if you've just tuned in, happy Africa Day. We'll take you back to the President talking about the COVID-19 pandemic, about Africa's history, and where to from here. I think we do have that link again. Let's take you back live.
Towards the coming into operation of the AfCFTA. This includes the commencement of trade on a small scale in parts of East and West Africa, the training of small businesses that is taking place on new trade portals, and moves towards bringing into operation of the AfCFTA
Lost the sound again. The President talking about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Of course, that's the big idea. And we will look at this a little bit later on Africa Day. To what extent has the agreement that Africans should trade more with each other, open borders, that the idea is that that should uplift all countries. But to what extent is it still an agreement? To what extent is it resulting in infrastructure and trade links and a movement of goods actually on the ground? Welcome to On Point. It's great to have you with us, and this is where we focus on the business news. We also bring you the top stories.